This carving is really coming along beautifully now. All I need to do now is take some 150 sandpaper and sand the surface. Get any kind of little wood fibers off. Also need to take my sandpaper and fold it like this and run it down all these grooves. And get any kind of little wood fibers out of those grooves. And if there's any kind of roughness in the edge there, we can take that out. As I'm doing that, I probably want to round over this edge a little bit, not much, but just enough that when someone touches it, it doesn't feel sharp. Now, one thing to remember when you are sanding, never run across the grain like this. Always do all your strokes in the same direction as the grain is running. If you run it this way, it's going to leave scratches in the wood that you don't see right now, but you'll see it as soon as you put the urethane or the shellac or lacquer on. Because we're not going to be using paint on this surface right here, any kind of scratches will show very badly. So we want to make sure that all of our strokes are running this way with the grain. Coming along real nicely. Got almost all the roughness out of it. Right now I'm just using the folded sandpaper to run up and down all the grooves and around all the letters and knock off any sharp edges on the tops of the letters. Now, one of the things that you may have noticed is as soon as I started sanding, a lot of the beautiful color seemed to disappear out of the wood. That will come back as soon as the dust is off of here, and especially when we put the lacquer on. This wood will be much darker when we put a coat of lacquer on it. Also, when I ran the router across it, it felt like it was very smooth. It looked smooth, it felt smooth, but as you can see from this huge pile of sawdust that I've collected here, there was a lot of wood fiber sticking up. Now, once we spray the lacquer on it, the strange thing is, no matter how smooth I get it, it'll get rough again because all the little wood fibers that are still laying down will then suddenly jump up when I put the lacquer on it. That's okay, because once the first coat of lacquer is on and I sand it, then all those wood fibers will be cut off, and I put the second coat of lacquer on, it'll be smooth as glass. Be really, really pretty. So I'm just going to keep going around here a little bit more. Got a little bit of roughness here in this end grain, and knock all that out. Then we'll be ready. All right. Well, I think the sanding's about finished on this. I have one more thing I want to do, and that is to carve my signature on the back side. It's fun to do, and I think every work of art ought to be signed. So let me swing the camera around and I'll show you how that's done. So how in the world do you sign something with a router? Well, what I've been using up until now is this 15-degree V-groove bit, and it has a little sharp point on it, and if I extend that bit just barely below the router, it just makes a little shallow cut like this, and that's done pretty well for me. The only problem I ever get into with this is if I have a wood like cedar or pine, especially pine, that has a very pronounced grain where I have a hard layer and a soft layer, hard layer, soft layer. When I try to go diagonally across all those layers, I get a zigzaggy line no matter how hard I try, because the tip of this bit does not have a lot of cutting power. So what I'm going to do on this one, just as an experiment, is I'm going to use a tiny little 1/16 of an inch straight bit, also set very shallow, and just go around it very carefully. I've noticed that on some experimental cuts that it goes through those layers of alternating hard and soft grain better than the profile bit does. So we're going to try that. Now you can see here that anywhere I have a little tiny loop, I'm going to be very at risk of having this little piece break off, and that would spoil my picture. So I may not like this all that much. I have to use fairly large sweeping letters, and I can make loops, but it's set at a risk. What I do is I just take a pencil and sign my name on the wood itself, writing very lightly. And if I don't like the way it came out, just grab a piece of sandpaper, sand it off, and do it again. Works better than an eraser. So let's get set up to do that, and we'll see how it comes out. Well, it looks like I got a lot of wood fibers here. I'll probably continue using the profile bit in the future. This worked out pretty well. It worked out quite well up here for the large numbers of the year. So if I was going to be just putting my initials on something and the date like that, I think the 1/16 of an inch straight bit would be a good choice. But if I'm going to try to do a cursive signature like this, I just don't get the detail that I would otherwise get, and it looks like I'm going to be spending quite a bit more time trying to do some cleanup. So either way works. Again, the 1/16 inch straight bit would be a lot easier to find at a hardware store or someplace like that. But I think for a signature, you see how that's wanting to break out right there too. I think for a signature, the profile bit will work better.